the thing that I always forget to say is this is strictly for educational purposes. I'm going to tell you what I know in practice and what I learned from all the seminars and conferences that I go to, and you know, the data that's out there. But always, you know, go to somebody who knows your situation, who understands, whether it's your doctor, your practitioner, if it's a nutritionist who understands the situation, whatever the case may be. Okay, so lots of things go into pregnancy, and it's easy for some and not so easy for others. So let's jump in. I want to talk a little bit about genetic screening. And so there are a couple of genetic screenings. You know, we can look at the things that are true genetic issues, that it's a small amount, but it is there. And so those are one of the things to look for. You can do that, you know, through saliva or blood. You can go to your doctor. A lot of times it's covered by insurance. There are a few things that you can look at, like cystic fibrosis, and things like that. But what I want to talk about too are there are genetic mutations. That's not the right word. It's polymorphisms. Mutation helps us to understand kind of what it means, but it's not truly an accurate term. So let me back up a little bit. If we're talking about epigenetics, you've heard me talk about this a little bit, but if you haven't, it's super interesting stuff. I mean, this is where we're starting to move into, you know, personalized healthcare, personalized nutrition, personalized medicine in a lot of cases, but we're a long way from truly understanding it. But epigenetics is, so if we have our genome, we have our epigenome, which essentially are locations on our genes that have the ability to turn on and off. And they turn on and off due to lifestyle factors. So they can turn off minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day, week by week. You get my point. And so with these, it's usually things like stress, food, exercise, too much, too little, family dynamics, which can be stressful or not, right? It can also be happy. And then we're looking at toxic load, toxic burden, food intake. I'm not sure if I already said that. All of those things that is what we do in life, right? If we're sitting down, what would they say, that sitting is now the next smoking? So it's really detrimental to our bodies to sit. And we'll talk more about that in a minute. But my point is if we're talking about these polymorphisms that we have, these are things that can affect us. So some of you may have heard of the acronym MTHFR. And so this is a folate polymorphism, and it's sort of the first one to come to, the first one that really came to the scene to be studied. This has been studied for a while, but people now hear the term MTHFR and they see that they have 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 of the polymorphisms and they freak out. And but it's really not something to freak out about. What we need to understand with polymorphisms is it doesn't mean we have something. It's really who we are, and it's really more about the potential that we have, right? It doesn't mean we have whatever it is. It doesn't mean that we're not utilizing our folate properly. It could. I mean, there's a good chance of it, but it doesn't mean that's absolutely the deal, which is why we really rely more on symptoms than anything else. So if we look at polymorphisms, we look at your epigenetic makeup, and we look at your symptoms, then there's a comparison. And so we compare your symptoms to the polymorphisms and like, okay, so it looks like this could be going on, and so we may want to supplement with an active form of folate, which is a methylfolate, or maybe not. Your genetics may be more for adenosine. Sorry, wrong vitamin. But we still want to be careful with the types of vitamins that we are using, because some are great for some people, some are not great for some people, right? So we just want to be really careful about that. There are a couple of other ones that we might be able to look into. MTR, MTRR, those are both folate SNPs. There are a few other things that can interfere with what's called the methylation cycle, which can interfere with fertility. Interestingly enough, is when I was doing a little deeper looking into male infertility, that's where the MTR and the MTRR came up first, more often, which is, I didn't realize that. So that's really interesting to me. But still all important to understand, and it's great to know what your epigenetic makeup is, you know, so you have a little bit of a toolkit, you have your toolbox to help you in whatever it is that you're trying to do, whether it's fertility or lose weight or gain weight or whatever in health that you need. It's just another tool in your toolbox, and it's great information to have. Okay. So let's move on. I don't know if I didn't say this earlier, but what I'm gonna try to do is hit this maybe 15 minutes or so, give or take, and then at that point we'll stop and then we'll move into the next section, or a new Facebook Live section, so we can kind of have these in bite-sized pieces because there's a lot of information here. Okay, so the next one is normal BMI. So really it's about having a healthy body weight. Are you too heavy? Or are you too light, which is a problem too. Not having enough body mass can be a problem in fertility. And so we want to have a good healthy body weight, but we also don't want to be what's called a skinny fat person, right? So we're really thin, but we have no muscle mass. We eat terribly, lots of sugar, lots of refined carbohydrates, things like that. So those are things that are going to be a problem in getting pregnant. So let's see. So BMI, couple of things to know about BMI. This is something that's it's really kind of out there everywhere. But so the categories for BMI are 18.5 or below is considered underweight. 18.5 to 24.9 is considered healthy. 25 to 29.9 is considered overweight, and then 30 and above is considered obese. Now there are different things that can change that, right? So we have somebody with some massive muscle mass, that's going to change BMI a little bit. So this isn't the end all be all. It's very generic, but I mean, you know who you are. You know if you have a little bit of weight to gain or a little bit of weight to lose, and there are ways to do that. So whether it's looking at what you're eating or how you're eating or when you're eating, or is it your genetics? Are there chemical imbalances going on? Lots and lots of things can control or can have an impact on weight either way. And what I also don't want, though, and I see this so often in practice, is people blaming themselves for the weight gain or not enough weight, and the inability to take care of it. So it's not always our fault if there's what's called a lack of control issue. It might be chemical, right? If we don't have the ability to control what we're doing, sometimes there's something else going on. So just be aware of that, and good healthy food really the biggest thing is have every meal, however many meals you have, plates of vegetables. We want, not plates, but a plate full of vegetables. We want to have lots and lots of vegetables on board. Then healthy fat, healthy protein, some fruit for some of us and not for others. But I can't say it enough. And we hear it, and we hear about, how many servings we're supposed to have a day. For me, it's just a plate full of vegetables and then a little bit of the other stuff. And that's really, really the case. Now, how much protein, how much fat does someone need? To me, I prefer to look at genetics because we're all different. This is a very individualized type of care, and understanding who you are is understanding your genetics, and we can look at that and we can see, do you maybe have a little bit of an issue with saturated fat, or should you eat less fat and higher carbohydrate, which is vegetable, not a bunch of grains. Okay. As of course exercise. We're made to move. We're meant to move. We have to move. I now have a stand-up desk, which has been amazing. And so it's not that I can really move at it, but I can stretch, which is awesome. It also keeps me from sitting, which was creating a lot of problems for me. But getting out, whether you walk or bike or hike, or you do some high intensity workouts periodically, those are all great things. Do what makes you happy and do what you're good at. And yoga is another one. I love yoga. But I also love high intensity. So I think the biggest thing to remember is lack of movement is not a good thing, but too much intense exercise. I've got clients who work out 2 and 3 hours every single day. Bodies are not meant to do that. That can create a lot of stress and a lot of problems on the body. And it can also create a situation of infertility because the body is not prepared for carrying a baby with that much intense exercise. Okay. All right. healthy eating, we kind of hit on that really already. Um, it, the things to really think about, I think, too, as if we start to get into the nitty gritty, yes, lots of vegetables is key. I would also say, though, that we want to look for organic. And if it's not organic, then you know, say if you're able to buy locals, you know, I'm in Colorado, we can buy local part of the time. I can grow food here, but, you know, there's part of the year that I can't do that. So if you are going to the farmers markets and understanding, you know, are they practicing organic methods? They don't have to have some silly certified organic stamp to be good, healthy, organic food. That's a government regulation, and it's meant to, well, it's meant to make them money, but, you know, kind of protect us a little bit, because we want it. We want good, clean food. We don't want the pesticides and herbicides. Another thing we're going to get into in a minute. But we really want it to be as clean and as fresh as possible. Anything out of a box is probably not clean and fresh, right? There are a few companies who are starting to try to get some clean food that's easily accessible and in, you know, boxes and things like that. But we've got to be so careful. Really, if it looks like something from the ground, then that's good. If we are eating good, healthy, grass-fed meat, that's a good thing. So you've heard me talk about this before, so I'll get into it just a little bit. But what we need to understand about meat, so we're going to talk about cows, but you can put chickens or anything in that category. If they're taken off grass and put onto grain, that is not a food that they're supposed to eat. It's not natural to their body. So if they're on if they're on grass their entire life, then they have a natural omega-3, omega-6 fatty acid balance. So omega-6 is inflammatory, omega-3 is anti-inflammatory. We have to have a balance of both. That's how the immune system works. But if you take them off grass and put them on grain, you're increasing their omega-6 fatty acid content, which means they are more inflamed. And they're also put on weight. So they're inflamed and they're obese. And what happens is we eat inflammation and obesity, right? So literally their biochemistry transfers and becomes our biochemistry. So we want to keep that inflammation down, right? Really, really important. So chickens aren't meant to sit in cages, let alone sit, you know, just in barns. They're meant to be out in the sun eating worms and pecking and eating insects and things like that. That's where they get their omega-6 fatty acid, omega-3 fatty acid content. So again, that balance that they have is what's going to create balance in us. All right. Okay. Things you know already, steering clear of sugar. There's really not any good sugar. Now, sugar, the fruit has sugar in it. It's a natural sugar, and it also has, though, vitamins and antioxidants and fiber and things that help counterbalance that fruit. That's a good thing. If you have blood sugar issues, we might take you off fruit for a little while. But we want to keep in mind that it's vegetables, that's first, and then the other stuff that we put with it, okay? All right, I feel like I don't have to say this. We're far beyond this. We understand that smoking is not good, and it's certainly not good for trying to get pregnant, carry a baby, have a baby. Talk about changing your epigenome. Smoking is detrimental. We all know it. So I'm not going to get into it anymore, because I feel like we've been talking about this for so many years, and if you're still smoking, you know you got to quit. It's just really all there is to it. Okay, toxin exposure. This is a cool one. It might be where we end because I want to hit on it a little bit. So we're going back to pesticides and herbicides, and then we're going to hit on some other things as well. Pesticides and herbicides, they do a couple of things, or they do multiple things, but they sit in tissues. Sometimes there are some of us who have polymorphisms that don't allow our livers to detoxify properly, and so it holds on to these toxins. Okay, so it can really create an issue for a lot of people. But then they're also considered xenoestrogens. You've probably heard me talk about it, or you've heard somebody else talking about it. You've got xenoestrogens, you've got metalloestrogens. So it's metals that in the body that the body sees as estrogens. So they're called xenoestrogens and metalloestrogens because they're estrogen mimickers. And so we have these estrogen receptor sites all over the body, both men and women. and when we take in these chemicals, then they bind to these estrogen receptor sites really, really tightly. And so our natural estrogens can't do their job. And so we have this inundation, I guess, of estrogen. So we've got way too much estrogen circulating in the system. And so for women, it's creating things like, the PMDD, this PMS. It's, full of rage, and, it's this uncontrollable situation where the hormones are just affecting every part of the body. And so there's a week or 10 days where they can be difficult to live with, to say the least. And I've had a few of these in practice, and it's a tough thing to deal with, but it's managing those estrogens, getting them out, getting rid of the toxins that are creating this estrogen dominant situation. I would branch outside of just the pesticides and herbicides, and I would talk about things like the things we put on our bodies. So if it's deodorant, shampoo, skincare, lotion, perfume. Perfume or cologne, just terrible stuff. Really, really bad. And if we're smelling it constantly, guess what? It's constantly creating a problem in our body. So the only thing that I would tell you when it comes to smelling nice is use essential oils. They don't last as long, but that's okay. Carry it with you and reapply. They smell nice. They're fresh. You can clean your clothes with them. You can clean your house with them. Don't use perfume. It is a toxic mother load that is just really putting a burden on the body, and doesn't, then the body doesn't want to work properly, right? And then you want to have a baby. It's got to create a baby, which is a big thing to do, right? It's a huge thing to create a little person. Let's see. So think about your makeup. Think about your hairspray. Think about the soap that you wash your clothes with, the soap that you put in your dishwasher. Think about the dryer sheets. Think about all of those things. Think about when you go into your yard and the chemicals you put on your yard. Use vinegar, or pull the dandelions and eat them. Just eat them. So the roots, great for liver detoxification or liver support. The leaves are great diuretics. And so they're great. They're great for your animals. Just pull them and eat them. But if you want to get rid of them, then put some vinegar on it and they'll go away. Okay. It's not as easy and doesn't last as long. But again, what's the point in killing it when it's just free food? I like free stuff. Free food makes me happy. Okay. So I think, let's move on, because we can talk a little bit more about, we already talked about the endocrine disruptors. I've got my cheat sheets here to make sure I'm not missing anything. One thing I did not hit on, though, is that the excess estrogen can create testosterone imbalance, as well as low sperm count and overall poor sperm health. So, although a lot of this is kind of geared toward women, it is geared toward men too. And another thing, we're seeing really soft men, and we're starting to see breasts on men. This is very the excess adipose tissue in the belly, things like that. That's kind of a vicious cycle right there. So the excess adipose tissue, the fat in the belly, creates more estrogen. And then more estrogen is going to create more fat. So that's this kind of nasty little cycle that's going on. So it can create a problem for both men and women. All right. So what else do we want to hit on? Oh gosh, BPA and plastics, just nasty, nasty stuff. And the problem too is we have these companies who are now promoting BPA free, and I can't remember this. I wrote something on it, but it's been a while. But it may be BPA free, but there's another BP something that is actually way worse. But it doesn't have BPA, so yay, we're happy and we're doing the right thing. We got to be really careful with marketing. It's a toxic, nasty world out there, and people really are concerned with making money and not keeping us healthy. So that's where we come into play. We have to hold ourselves accountable to take care of ourselves and be educated and know what's out there that's healthy and what's not healthy. I work every day, and there's a lot that I don't know. But I work really hard to try to make sure I'm up to date on these things. But there are just hundreds or thousands of toxins that are not tested that we know nothing about that are in our environment and in our food, in our products. So, kind of like with food, keep the ingredient list low. There's some like healthcare products that are, like the body care products that don't even have to list the ingredients. Make your own. Avocado oil or olive oil and essential oils. That's a great, and coconut oil, things like that. Those are really great for putting on your skin or putting on your body. And it's simple and it's easy and it's moisturizing and it's not clogging and it's going to take care of you better than some big company is going to take care of you, right? For the most part. Okay. So ways to avoid BPA: stop drinking bottled water. So you can use stainless steel or you can use glass water bottles. They also have copper water bottles now, which are super cool. So you can do that. And then avoid, plastics in food. Don't put your plastic in a microwave. Don't put your food in plastic, especially when it's hot. It's the heat that brings that, that puts BPA essentially into the food. Some people will say whether it's cold or hot. I know for sure when it's warm, it creates a problem with the food and BPA. If it's cold, it's more of a, safe, be safe, better safe than sorry kind of situation. I have moved almost entirely to to glass. Still use Ziplocs sometimes, but never mostly like for crackers or something like that, right? So I'm pretty careful there. Let's see. So using glass, ceramic, food safe metal. Those are all great ways of getting away from using plastic. I was in Kansas with my husband back a couple of years ago, but I've seen it since. And there's this one, like a gas station where, Kansas, if you've been to Kansas, it's just brutally hot. And the gas station sits where the sun is shining down on it, and they just have water bottles just baking in the sun. Makes me sick to my stomach because it's just creating this just toxic grossness. It's awful. So don't do that. And remember, you don't know where it's coming from. So if you buy it out of the refrigerator at the store, where was it before that point? Okay. So things to think about. All right. So more things that we can talk about would be, we talked about this. So parabens in your deodorants and shampoos, phthalates in body care products, sunscreens. Oh, for love, Pete, sunscreen. Use sunscreen if it is a mineral based, like zinc oxide or something like that. Those typically are fine. You want to look at the other ingredients, but anything with the chemical sunscreens is just toxic. Neutrogena, the worst. I hope I just want to put it out there because it's just bad news. Okay, lots of people think it's safe. It is not safe. Be very careful. Look at the ingredients. Make sure it's a mineral base. Look at all the other stuff. And if you have to use it a little bit. We need the sun. Get out in the sun. It's okay to get just a little bit pink, whether that takes 5 minutes if you're really fair or 20 minutes if you're darker. It takes me a little longer to get some good sun. Sun is healthy. We need the sun. All right. Okay. I think we're going to stop there. We are going to stop there. So this is getting into some supplementation. So next time we'll get into supplements for women, supplements for male fertility, blood flow, ovulation, dentistry. You got to have a healthy mouth, some acupuncture. If you are in the local Denver area, I have an amazing acupuncturist. She's awesome. And then we'll get into some more food and some ideas and stuff like that. So we'll stop there. Please, if you have questions, let me know. I have tastelifenutrition.com, my website. You can post questions here on Facebook, and I will do this again hopefully in the next few days. We'll do a part 3. I have a course coming up, so be sure to look out for that. It's just a short course, but it'll move into some other things. I have on my website also a health assessment. So fill out the health assessment. It'll probably take you 5, maybe 10 minutes. it'll come straight to me, and I'll give you a call or email you, and we'll set up a time to chat about whatever it is that you want to chat about. So just gives me some good guidance on what might be going on with you, and then if we decide that it's worth working together on both of our sides, then we'll go through an analysis, which is this really cool big software program that gives us a whole ton of information. So we'll talk more about that, but let me know if you have questions. I hope you all have a wonderful day. We'll talk to you next time. Thanks.